remember being in the same place you all are, not exactly at the New York Times, but in my own career working for a company. Not too long ago, my last job I had before I went full-time on my own business, they informed me that the first 2 weeks was going to be training. Training was going to be in Philadelphia. The key to that was that I was not going to be able to go home on the weekend in between those 2 weeks. The problem was that at the time I had a 1-year-old at home, so that wasn't going to work. So before I went to Philadelphia for those 2 weeks of training, I bought my husband and my 1-year-old a flight to Philadelphia for the weekend. Now, that first week of training was hard, but it wasn't hard because of the material. What was hard is that my son had gotten sick. He had caught a cold for basically the first time. My son started to get better before they flew out to Philadelphia. So as soon as they got to Philly, we went all around Philadelphia because none of us had ever been here before. We went all the way through downtown. We went to the Rocky statue, went up the steps and everything, took pictures, and then we started to head back to our hotel room. Now, as we got back to the hotel room, my son JR, he started getting that cough again. So I told my husband before bed, why don't you all sit? You sleep in this bed, me and JR are gonna sleep in this bed so I can listen to his breathing. Now, throughout the night, I'm continually waking up because he's coughing and coughing. That coughing turned into a wheeze. And to the point that at 3 a.m. I said, John, that's my husband, I said, we got to go to the hospital. And we get a taxi cab and we go to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. With the end coming in, the nurse looks at my son and immediately takes him into the back into a room and puts a mask on his face. And the doctor came in a few minutes later and he said, your son's airway had gotten this far closed. And that's why you're hearing the He said if you would have waited another hour, he would have been dead. Now, I don't know if anyone in here has asthma or knows someone with asthma, but I promise you that that type of anxiety can really get to you because you feel like you can't breathe. And I had that same type of anxiety a few months before that when I received a phone call at 8 a.m. in the morning and from a company that I had worked for 8 years telling me they no longer needed my services. So in a 10-minute phone call, I lost my job, I lost my health care, I lost a company car and a gas card. But that's not what made me have the anxiety. What made me have the anxiety is when I went and started opening up bill statements and online bank statements and found out we were $50,000 in debt. And I paid that debt off in 2 years, but how I got into it, we'll talk about that in a minute.